So, my daughter, I did not know that you were such a failure of a wife, of a woman.
I'm really loving this look. I feel like a cartoon mom from the 2000s. Confident and thick as hell.
Because my heart belongs to Daddy.
By now, we've all heard of the sentiment that traditional men have about older women. The sentiment being, if they could lock you up and permanently remove you from society, they would. Traditional man will most likely replace you after a decade or so goes by, and you show that you have the audacity to age like a normal person. They kind of permanently want their wives to be around 25 while they're 40. And no, I'm not saying that if your husband is like 20 years older than you, that he's automatically with you because you're trainable. But here are some things that a traditional man would say that will make you question the foundation of the relationship. I love how submissive you are. You always do as you're told. I love your long hair and your pure body that doesn't have any tattoos. I can't imagine being with a dried up 30-year-old. Not like you, baby. You're so young and fertile.
Good.
Real men, traditional men, don't want to marry a woman older than 25 because they're kind of looking for the person they can easily train to become the slave of their dreams. And they know that a lot of the women in their age range won't be so easy and gullible to fall for their delusions of grandeur or obtuse. Traditional men are probably the greatest hypocrites you will ever encounter in your lifetime if you are a woman. Do not be fooled by the fact that they're probably going to be older than you by 10 or 20 years. On the inside, they are children through and through. Please keep in mind that I am not saying only traditional men are toxic as hell. Anybody can be a toxic bag of crap. Conservative, traditional, liberal, far left, far right, centralist, feminist, any man can be toxic. But based on what I have heard from trad wives and women who have dated men who claim to be real men, aka traditional men, I think when a man says he's a traditional man, that's probably 80 toxicity points right off the bat. You see, traditional men are real providers. They will give you their full unflinching support to not work, encourage you to not get that degree, and shower you with gifts and assets which they will put in their names. So when they decide to abruptly divorce you on a random Wednesday, they can leave you with absolutely nothing. They will leave you financially stranded, because that's how a real man lives his life. And don't worry, darling, when they leave, they'll take the kids too. Or because they really understand how much children really desperately need the warmth and love of their mother, they will leave you with the kids, financially destitute, to suffer as a family together. When a traditional man marries you, often they will immediately pump you with babies because they still cannot believe they have managed to rope in a beautiful young thing like yourself. I mean, after 3 or 4 decades of surveying the land, they've never found anyone else they can feed their BS to on a silver platter. You're so pure and innocent. Can you please send me a nude? You have to be a virgin. Best if you've never even interacted with a man in a naughty way. You can't satisfy me. It's like you don't even know what you're doing in the bedroom. See, your traditional husband is a real man, so he is programmed to become community PP. They are the superior gender. It makes sense why they cheat so much. That's not lack of self control. As the pygmies and the mature worn down wives would say, that's just their biological nature. Now, I'll say this. When it comes to the multiple ways a lot of men like to explain infidelity, I think we should take a page from their book. So, dear trad wife wannabes, if you ever cheat on your man, I don't want you to say that you cheated. Just say, I had a moment of weakness. I like that one. I like that one. I like that one a lot, actually. Or, it wasn't me. It was the pressure. The pressure from life got me all twisted. So I had a moment of weakness. That's the one. That's the one, actually. That's the one. Yeah. I really love it when my wife is in her feminine energy, which is why I want her doing all the cooking, washing, folding, ironing, dusting, mopping, sweeping, vacuuming, grocery shopping, clean the windows, and handle all the childcare needs. Oh, what am I gonna do? Well, as a provider and protector and a leader, after I clock out of my very hard 8-hour job, I am gonna let you continue to handle everything in the house while I eat dinner, then watch TV or the game. But don't worry, I am still protecting you from the real hard stuff because all you're doing is taking care of the kids. You're just looking after the home. You're a homemaker. Look, it even comes with a cute little title. But I, as a man, I am going to do the real hard stuff. All right. I am going to mow the lawn once a month, fix the roof once a year, and I am going to do the repairs around the house and lead us into prosperity. Like the provider, protector, and the leader that I am. Now, if you're still watching, I feel like the first fundamental thing every trad wife wannabe should understand and really soak in is the fact that to traditional men, you are not a person. You serve three purposes, all right? Pum pum, womb, and slave. PWS. Very simple acronym, easy to learn.
Write it down and keep it for future reference.
I will immediately pump you with several babies and not hire a nanny to help you. I will expect you to lose all the weight, or I will make horrible comments about your body, even though I definitely don't look how I used to 8, 10 years ago. I will treat you like trash and still expect you to sleep with me. You will be expected to always, always, always carry the load of the domestic labor. Whether you're sick, whether you just gave birth, whether we have a kid or kids that have special needs, I will expect the most out of you and simultaneously undervalue everything you do. Paying you in full with dehumanizing insults, body shaming comments, gaslighting, grown man tantrums. Hell, sometimes I won't even feel bothered to put my dirty socks in the hamper. Take care of myself or my own kids for even a day when you get sick, and sometimes I won't even flush the goddamn toilet. Why? Because that's woman's work. I will want you to quit your job or just not work at all, so you can put all your attention on looking after the home and kids. Then I will complain that there's not enough money and that you're just a parasite that sucks my bank account dry. And another thing, a lot of us traditional men will never really be ambitious and just want to rope you into a life of struggle and borderline poverty. The woman on TikTok who wears couture, who makes those borderline traditional men corn videos in her very expensive kitchen. Her hair always looks nice, she has expensive jewelry, she has expensive clothes, her nails always look nice. I think traditional men need to stop watching Nara Smith videos, if they are watching her videos at all. I don't watch her content, so I have no idea who is in her comment section. But what I do know is that a lot of traditional men will probably never be able to afford a wife like Nara Smith. You see, the thing about traditional men, and this is where the delicious hypocrisy and special branded logic comes to play here. You see, some of these traditional men will lure you in with a fantasy, and they'll do so by pitching a script that goes a little something like this. I don't want my woman to sweat and struggle and work for the man. I want her to have an easy life at home. I want her to put her feet up, play with the kids, wear beautiful, modest dresses while she cooks delicious meals, all while being completely submissive to me. Really, she's getting the better half of the deal, because as a traditional man, all I need is a beautiful, obedient, warm, and kind woman who cooks and cleans and takes care of me and my children. It's easy. It's such an easy task, which is why I have given it to her. I'm not a hard man to please. I'm the one who's gonna have the real tough role. I have to go out into the world and make a living. Fast forward a couple years, these traditional men will somehow convince you trad wives that you are in your feminine energy as you close from your first job to then start your second job, being a homemaker, primary caretaker of the kids, and a bangmate. Oh, you thought you wouldn't have to get a job? They're salesmen, honey. They're selling you a fantasy, a dream. And don't worry, because they're traditional men, you will be handing over that paycheck entirely to your husband. Why? Because your delicate brain cannot be entrusted with managing money like a man. Not in a traditional household. You are now a traditional homemaker working woman conglomerate with 4 kids. So there is no way in hell that you're gonna look like this or this. Nora Smith has money. You don't. Also, according to the multiple articles coming out every month about how women are leaving men behind and women are having more degrees and women are going to be out earning most men years from now, if they aren't already out earning them currently. There are more women graduates than men. And say what you want about the crippling job market, but at the end of the day, if you don't get fired or just get knocked around by the system, there is significantly more earning potential in the long run from most jobs that require degrees compared to jobs that don't require degrees. Things that make your standard of living generally better in the long run, stuff like health insurance, paid maternity leave, paid time off, remote work, and other benefits, yeah, they usually come with degree holding jobs. So, when the delusions that they alone can provide for their family on one paycheck crumbles before them, they'll start to unfortunately practice things like verbal abuse, DV, and other forms of abuse. I'm gonna sprinkle in a joke. You know how men retire from the workforce? When do trad wives retire? Probably when her husband dies. Just kidding, he'll probably replace you after you turn 40 or 45. So don't worry about that. Now you may be wondering why some women will willingly enter this kind of family dynamic, even after hearing all the cautionary tales from previous trad wives on the internet. And you still may wonder why some women today would still choose to remain in bad situations like this with their husbands. I will give you my 2 cents on why I think this has been happening for decades, even after women were allowed to work and have their own money, and why it will probably still continue to happen 200 years after I've long died. Now, I took off my glasses because this is a very serious but entertaining part of the video that I think you should really listen to if you're still listening to this. A lot of horrible men and bums will always be able to find a wife or a woman to keep in their lives. And that's because there's unfortunately never going to be a shortage of women with low self esteem who generally believe that if they're not breaking their backs or losing their minds and their health in the high risk, little to no reward MLM scheme, which is being a traditional wife, then their lives have no meaning. Yes, boo, boo, tomato, tomato. I don't care. It's the truth. Girls are often raised in Africa, Europe, Asia, North America, South America, and wherever in the world you have seen this specifically. Girls are kind of raised to be floor mats for men, and it starts from a very, very young age. Growing up in Nigeria, there are so many young girls who get ushered into the kitchen as early as like 7, 8 years old. And what's worse is that a lot of girls growing up see very vile, selfish, and unpleasant things their fathers do, and it's always almost in contrast to their mother being a submissive, selfless work mule around the house for their brothers and fathers. When women stay with a man that's literally dog trash, either two things happen. Either your daughter grows up seeing that and says, "That's not what I want for myself," or they become doormats for men. And then your son, most of the time, unless the boy has a conscience, these boys see what their mothers go through at the hands of their fathers and say, "That's what I want in a woman. That is exactly how my future wife is gonna be." You know when men on the internet are like, "Well, my mommy had 3 jobs, and my mommy loved to serve my dad with a smile on her face. Well, my mommy did this, and my mommy did that." Yeah, that's where that BS comes from. And it's truly embarrassing every time I see it. These boys don't see their mother being treated like dirt. They see a wonderful vision of what a woman is supposed to do. What else is her purpose but to do everything while being a booze aid? A man who believes that women are supposed to be work mules, and a woman who has been conditioned to be a slave and has low self esteem. Has there ever been a truer perfect match? Allow me to paint for you the whole picture. Most of the time, circulating in the lives of traditional men and traditional women is religion. And I gotta tell you, if a lot of religions didn't have a centerpiece, which is treating women like slaves, controlling them, and expecting the most out of them, no matter how old they get, I don't think a lot of men would subscribe to religion. I don't think they'd care for it. I don't think it'd be their style. For traditional men and traditional women to exist, there needs to be a perfect mix of one, a strong toxic religious community that believes that women are second-class citizens, two, older women who have already been conditioned to believe that they should be slaves and have in turn developed extremely low self esteem, who willingly push the toxic religious ideologies in the community. Three, a community that teaches boys toxic religious and women controlling ideologies, which they also see manifest and confirmed in their childhood homes through their conditioned horrible fathers and their conditioned doormat mothers. Sometimes a lot of young girls growing up seeing this perfect mix and come to the conclusion that this is perfectly fine. This is how it should be. But the painful irony is that a lot of submissive and often naive women who have been taught to do everything around the home and will happily, willingly comply with such teachings, they're often given husbands who are abusive, selfish, narcissistic men who throw tantrums. Like, honestly, the more I think about it, it's not fair. It's not fair that this is how the pairing goes. And I just want to stress, I am not against traditional women. I am not against traditional wives. If that's what you want to be, fine. I am against the environment that wants them. I am against the environment that welcomes them with open arms. I am against the environment that welcomes all their love and giving and labor, and in return wants to treat them like dirt under a shoe. In an ideal world, women who choose to become traditional wives would end up with really good husbands, but that's not really how it goes. And please do not drag me. I obviously cannot get the full context of Mormonism from watching a reality TV show. But in watching the secret lives of Mormon wives and listening to ex Mormon YouTubers, you can kind of see how a lot of traditions and communities make sure that young girls are conditioned to grow up and serve as a PWS to their husbands. PWS meaning Pum Pum Boom and Slave. Like the fact that some of these women have never achieved the big O because being intimate is done only for procreation or to serve the husband's needs is horrifying. In a lot of religious marriages, be it Christian, Muslim, Mormon, the husbands are often very traditional and very insecure and very abusive in one form or the other. And it almost seems like the horrible behavior of the husbands is kind of like backed by their religious community. Not all, but the really toxic ones do find a way to convince the wives that, well, maybe your husband is acting in this way, Sally, because you're not doing enough to be the best wife ever. I come from Nigeria, and there are a lot of men who have the egos of a glass skyscraper. It's so huge, but so fragile. When these horrible men become husbands, their horrible behavior is backed by aunties, sisters, grandmothers, in laws, random pygmies, other horrible men, and their church or mosque. I think low self esteem in women runs rampant because girls grow up seeing fathers, uncles, and other men be horrible. There's infidelity, DV, financial instability, zero help around the house. They have other children outside the marriage, and sometimes they even give their wives STIs. And these men are never held accountable. Instead, these young girls see these women just accept the horrible behavior while giving their undeserving horrible husbands all their labor in complete submission. I think without all the grandmothers, aunties, and other older women who accept, practice, and push this very toxic narrative of what a good woman and a good wife should be, I don't think we'd be as far gone as we are today. Please understand, I'm not entirely blaming the women. The men are definitely horrible, dog crap that should be cast aside to wither away in the streets. But the women who just accept it and then try to push it on their daughters, their nieces, and other helpless girls, like, what's your problem? You know this hasn't helped us. It's funny how a lot of traditional men don't even realize that they literally give birth to feminists. Because, like I said, some young boys and young girls will see all the horrible stuff that their mothers go through, and they will be like, yeah, no, thank you. No, ew, gross. What's not funny at all is the fact that a lot of young girls, when they grow up, they remember the horrible stuff their moms went through at the hands of their fathers. But for some reason, the young boys, they don't remember it being that bad. Or they remember it differently. Yeah, mom was definitely happy. You know, happy people often drink 5 bottles of wine and hide the empty bottles underneath the trash bag and cry in the shower. My mom loved my dad. She just loved serving him. Like, she found so much joy and fulfillment in being dad's bitch. It's crazy how many sick, twisted teachings intertwined with traditional values make a lot of women think, well, if I just stick around and take all these 2 children that he had with other women while we were married, he'll see what a great person I am and he'll never cheat again. Well, if I just get these many cosmetic procedures done, he'll stop lurking around all these younger women's Instagram pages and stop sliding into their DMs. Well, if I just lose a little bit of weight, he'll stop flirting with all these skinny 20-year-olds at the gym. Well, if I just hold his hands and pray with him every night, he'll stop cheating and he'll stop the brakes off of me. Well, if I just go above and beyond every time, he'll start to acknowledge all the things I do around the house. Any effort, and I mean any effort at all, you give to a horrible man will only let him see that you are a dumb bitch that he can very much take advantage of. He's going to continue to just push the limits of how much neglect, bullying, oppression, and disrespect you can take. Because he wants to see how far he can take this. The only thing that makes men do better for you is if they want to do better. No Botox, no filler, no dropping 20 pounds, no gaining 20 pounds, no surgery, no let me take all these 3 kids he had behind my back, no let me work 2 jobs and take care of the home, no looking the other way when he cheats, no praying by his side so he can stop treating you like dirt. Nothing. Another reason why some older women will push traditional values on you is because they don't want you to be happy. Because they're not happy. They told them the same BS and they fell for it. So these older women, they become salesmen. They're gonna try to sell you their nightmares in the form of a dream. Because, like I said, it's an MLM scheme with little to no reward for the women. They know that, but you don't know that yet. So, older wives, like, until you're living their life of resentment, these women will not let you breathe. You reach a certain age. When are you going to get married? You get married. When are you going to have a kid? You have a kid. When are you going to have another kid? You have another kid. Well, I don't think your family is going to complete until you have 8 kids. Oh my God. Anyway, a reason why older men push traditional BS is because a lot of men are so fragile that if you tell them that you don't want a husband or kids, they start to verbally abuse you. But in all honesty, isn't it like really weird how like grown men and grown married men are very, very involved in single women's lives or women who don't have kids' lives? You want a family, and that's perfectly fine. Or you already have one. So why don't you focus on your wife and them little kids? Like, apparently, you have the dream, you've achieved the dream. So be content with the dream. Let's be honest, right? Let's be like honest with ourselves. The title of Mrs. Yeah, it's been exposed as one of the foulest scams that can ever happen to a woman. When a certain traditional man says he doesn't think you're wifey material, a smart woman would respond to that by saying, "Thank effing God." Because when a certain man says you're not wifey material, what he's really saying is that he doesn't think you're a good candidate for the horror show of trials and tribulations that he purposely wants to put you through. He doesn't think you're gonna accept him with open arms when he cheats on you multiple times. You don't seem very warm and forgiving. You don't seem like you're willing and ready to look after him, like you were a child. You seem selfish. You don't seem like you'd respond well to gaslighting and manipulation. He appropriately responds by throwing a tantrum and threatening to divorce you. You don't seem like you would not hold that against him in the future. You don't seem like you'd be mature about it and let bygones be bygones. When he purposely treats you like garbage and maybe even abuses you and tells you that it's not his fault, but his demons. You don't seem like you'd be willing to pray with him for a breakthrough. You don't seem like the kind to quietly suffer behind closed doors, just like his mother did. And finally, after 30 years of putting up with just deplorable behavior that somehow gets worse and worse as the decades go by, you don't seem like you'd make a cute little Facebook post saying, well, it hasn't been easy. We've had good times and bad times. But I'm so blessed to have you, and I love you so much. Happy 30 years to the love of my life. You don't seem like you would do that. You don't seem like a ride or die, a real one. And that worries him. A very important question I have for people who want to be trad wives or people whose husbands may already be morphing them into a traditional homemaker working woman conglomerate with kids and they're yet to realize it. I want you guys to ask yourself whether you are going to be up for doing your woman duties consistently for at least 10 years. What a lot of traditional women surprisingly don't realize is that you will get tired of doing it. As a human being, you cannot not get tired of doing it. Why? Because, well, you'll be doing everything for 10 to 30 years. There is no single traditional wife in this world who has not gotten tired of being a traditional wife. I mean, if they're an actual traditional wife. I'm not talking about the Nara Smiths of the world. Another reason why you'll probably get sick of doing everything is because gradually, year after year, your husband will only pivots in how lazy he is. See, eventually, he'll just move on to nonverbal communication, pivoting. In your beautiful traditional marriage, here are some examples of pivoting you can look forward to from your husband. Leaving nail clippings on the sink or bathroom surface when the bin is probably right there. Leaving dirty laundry on the floor instead of in the hamper. Walking past drink spills that he made without cleaning them up, taking food to the bedroom and leaving the dirty plates under the bed. Like, you'd think that for making all the meals in the house that you would get a "Gee, babe, I had such a grumpy day at work, but then I thought about the amazing dinner I had waiting for me from my loving wife, and it just inspired me to send you a long, meaningful paragraph expressing how much I appreciate you and love you." Instead, you'll probably get criticism about your cooking. It truly amazes me how men are so unafraid of criticizing their wife's cooking. For all your consistent around the clock service, you won't get any just cuz presents, or an amazing birthday gift, or even a husband with a good personality. Instead, you'll get, "Do you even do anything around the house? No, really, do you?" Or instead of unappreciation, you will get nothing. No acknowledgement whatsoever for all that you do. You could have woken up at 6 a.m. and finished cooking Thanksgiving dinner by 6 p.m. And during dinner, when your daughter asks her father, your husband, whether he's thanked mommy for the delicious dinner, your husband will say something along the lines of, Darling, when you've been married for as long as we've been married, you don't need to say thank you or please. Isn't that right, honey?" In Western media, there's so many movies and TV shows where they actually want you to take life lessons from a piece of work where the husband is so obviously just a horrible person. I'm Nigerian. Do you have any idea how many Nigerian movies start with a man repeatedly cheating on his wife, or the man repeatedly doing the opposite of protecting his wife in one form or the other? And then after an hour and 30 minutes of wasted time that I will never get back, the movie ends with the husband and wife coming together stronger than ever. And the lesson to be learned is, if you just work together as a team and learn to forgive, your marriage can get through anything. I'll tell you what, if the wife cheated on her husband, the movie would have been 5 minutes long. He would have found out she cheated and he would have kicked her to the curb. Cue the end credits. And if you don't get enough of it from watching TV, then you'll get it from home. You'll get it from aunties, you'll get it from grandmothers. As a young woman, have you ever just been minding your own business and then an elderly woman or just a woman older than you came up to you and said, "Well, if you don't cook and clean and bend over backwards and go above and beyond every day for your husband, he's gonna do this and he's gonna do that." And you're just looking at them like they grew two heads, because nobody can rival their cooking. Their cooking is 10 out of 10, but their husband is still in the streets. They've done everything they possibly could do under the sun, and this man is still a horrible piece of work. So it clearly didn't work for them, and it clearly didn't work for anybody they know. So it's not gonna work for you, but they keep peddling this BS like it's an MLM. And yes, a lot of these aunties, like I said, have already been conditioned and worn down by broken promises after existing so long in a sexist and traditional double standard environment that they grew up in. But I'm not Captain Save-A-Ho, so you can understand why they are the way they are, but that doesn't mean you have to feed into their bullshit. And if that doesn't get you, it'll be the pygmies on the internet holding classes or pushing courses of how to keep a man or how to get a man.
He's a good man, Savannah. A good man.
Listen to me very carefully. A pygmy is a dangerous creature that is born in the deepest pits of darkness and despair of repeated maltreatment, jealousy, no self love, hatred, and psychosis. And they should be avoided at all costs. A pygmy can neglect her child for a man. She can allow her son to hurt her daughters. She can have you jumped for disrespecting her man. She can allow a man living with her to abuse her child. She can cover her man's illegal act of unaliving someone. So please, if you ever see a pygmy across the street, go the other way.
running? Why are you running?
The worst thing about this whole traditional movement, during the 2010s and maybe like even 2020, a lot of women really started embracing the whole choosing themselves thing and not settling for lies, zero effort, manipulation, and stress. And because it was working so well, the red pill movement started. It started off as, here are some ways men can improve their self esteem. And then it shifted into, women, if you don't submit completely to your man and let that man cheat in peace and be there for the bad and the really, really bad times and offer him the coochie every single time he wants it and even do his university homework and work in his company for free so he can build and grow and transcend his business. If you don't give and serve with a big smile on your face, you're not ready to be a wife. You don't deserve a man.
I mean, what if I don't want to live the way you live?
Oh, don't be ridiculous, Andrea. Everybody wants this.
Now, I did not know who Lauren Southern was before I saw this article. I randomly saw it one day last year and I was intrigued by the title. The title is How My Trad Life Turned Toxic. The Online Ideology Doesn't Work in the Real World. Southern was perhaps the most telegenic figure in the brash, young, and very online alt-right movement which emerged in the 2010s. Okay, so we can clearly see that Lauren is of an acquired taste, meaning if she was on the menu in a restaurant, it would be a hard pass for me. Then abruptly, she disappeared in 2019 to embrace marriage and motherhood in her husband's home country of Australia. She was, it seemed, all set to embrace the nurturing, feminine, domestic role promoted by right-wing traditionalists, idealized by tradwife influencers, and criticized by progressives as dangerous and stupid. She tells me she knows many other women still suffering in unhappy trad-life marriages. One of her WhatsApp groups, she says, is like the Underground Railroad for women in the conservative movement. Oof, not the Underground Railroad. Let's not do that. Let's not call it that. Some of these are prominent media figures. They are a lot of influencers who are not in good relationships, who are still portraying happy marriage publicly and bashing people for not being married while being in horrendous relationships. So when marriage beckoned at 22, she was 22.
Damn.
She tells me, okay, I cannot pronounce this word. I'm sorry. I have more important things to worry about in my life. And learning 30 new smart sounding words to add to my vocabulary is not really high on the list. So when marriage beckoned at 22, she thought she had won the lottery. They got married within 4 months. And she quickly succumbed to pregnancy. Analyzing this little part, like I said, they get you at a very young age where you're most gullible for manipulation and control. They were warning signs from early on. If I ever disagreed with him in any capacity, he'd just disappear for days at a time. I remember there were nights where he'd call me worthless and pathetic, then get in the car and leave. But she didn't see them, thanks to the simplified anti feminist ideology she'd absorbed and promoted. I had this delusional view of relationships that only women could be the ones that make or break them, and men can do no wrong. So she didn't spot the red flags, even as they grew more extreme. He'd lock me out of the house. I remember having to knock on the neighbor's door on rainy nights because he'd get upset and drive off without unlocking the house. It was very strange to go from being this public figure on stage with people clapping to the girl crying knocking on someone's door with no home to get into, being abandoned with a baby. And of course, she quickly fell pregnant because, as I said, after searching near and far, he found the perfect candidate who was already preloaded with men can do no wrong and women should always submit talking points. So of course, he immediately got started on making a family. He must have really been rubbing his hands together like an animated villain when he got with her. Till this day, I don't think anybody knows who her husband was. We should know who this man is. He should have posters of him, and the poster should say, proceed with caution. No, seriously, he's not a bad boy. He's just bad shit crazy. Locking her, not with the baby. Not with the baby. The best thing a woman can do is be a mother. He locked her out with the baby? But he used the political and religious importance she placed on lifelong marriage as a lever to force her to agree. Whenever I wouldn't do something, he would say, I'm going to divorce you. So, feeling she had no other option, she assented. He also insisted that she should publicly quit her work. His work required a high level of government security clearance. She was a right wing provocateur who had faced deplatforming, state investigations, and was even banned from entering the UK. If some of you are confused, as I said, Lauren is of an acquired taste. Yeah, everything checks out so far. You know, the grown man tantrums, threatening divorce over the smallest thing. That's something you can very much expect. You shouldn't expect it because he's a traditional man. You should expect it because of the kind of traditional man he is. And most of them are grown babies. Often it's pastors and older women or women that will gaslight the young wives into staying in horrible marriages. But her ex husband seemed to have been able to do that all by himself. Plus the fact that, she already believed the bull. So in 2019, she announced she was leaving media and activism altogether. Activism. As Southern tells it, she was trying sincerely to put into practice the ideology she'd promoted in her videos. You know what? I actually like that because a lot of the time when all of these like influencers who speak on large platforms to like spread their values and everything, I'm always like, aren't you supposed to be a traditional wife though? Lauren says, I believed I had a certain role in my relationship, she told me, and it was to be the more submissive one that supports my husband's dreams. Then, thousands of miles from friends and family, she reports becoming the closest thing to a modern day Western Slave. With no income of her own, she had to do everything: the lawns, the house, the cooking, the baby care, his university homework. And I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any support. There was no help changing diapers. There was no help waking up in the night with the baby. I'd still have to get up to make breakfast before work. I'd be shaking and nervous for fear I'm gonna get yelled at. Then he'd berate her for spending all her time on tasks other than earning money. I was told daily that I was worthless, pathetic, dead weight. All you do is sit around and take care of the baby and do chores. So here's a checklist for you. Lauren becomes a slave. Check. She is completely reliant on her traditional provider husband. Check. And lastly, of course, that's special branded logic. You see, he needs her to take care of their child and everything around the house, but then also insults her because all she does is take care of everything around the house and take care of the child. Check. He was so much kinder and sweeter and more pursuant of me when I was this boss babe traveling the world working. It seemed like becoming a mother made him lose respect for me. It was shocking to me, again, because the traditional view preached the opposite: that men love you more when you stop working and become a wife and a mother.
Interesting.
In her experience, though, this was very much not the case. So, a year after retiring to embrace traditionalist domestic life on the right wing model, she posted her comeback video and began making sporadic media appearances. Yep, we see another woman who fell prey to one of the biggest scams that can ever happen to womankind. If you become his wife and a mother to his beautiful children, if you just answer your natural calling in life and say no to corporate, if you just cook and clean and pray and support him, he'll be the provider, protector, leader, and caretaker of your dreams.
Good.
Even though she was no longer a deadweight financially, her job failed to appease her husband. He kept demanding I contribute more financially, but then would chew me out. It didn't seem to matter what she did. He would just give me impossible tasks all day. Tasks that I simply could not finish. It felt like he would almost send me on errands with the intent of having me fail. Yet again, that special branded logic, because no matter what your pastor, your auntie, the older men in your community tell you, when a traditional man wants to be a prick, there is nothing to neutralize him being a prick. She couldn't win, but all the teachings she had absorbed had convinced her that she still needed to try to win back his love and respect and admiration. She was told that being a stay at home, submissive, traditional wife is the most valuable thing a woman can be. He told her to quit her job so she could be a good conservative wife with good values and stay at home with the kids and look after the house. Then he called her worthless deadweight when she is a submissive wife who looks after the home and kid. He's mad at her for not bringing in any money and for only looking after the home and the baby when that's exactly what she should be doing. Then she gets a job, which, again, most trad wives will have to bring in some form of income into the household because a lot of traditional men will never make enough money, especially nowadays, to sustain a traditional wife. Or some of them will, but a lot of them forget how selfish they are and how much they genuinely hate looking after anybody that's not themselves. So, Lauren starts to bring in money from her job, and now he's complaining that she has a job. Well, which one is it, Lauren's ex husband? Do you want her to only look after the home and the baby and complain about how she's not bringing in any money? Or do you want her to bring in money so you can bitch and moan about how she's not looking after the home like a stay at home traditional wife? All of this was, Southern says, difficult to square with her religious beliefs. She would pray by his bed when he was angry with her, hoping that if she gave him grace one more time, he'd realize the depth of her love and be kinder. And if this didn't work, she was encouraged to persist. But as she discovered, distilling religious traditionalism into viral bullet points does not provide an adequate framework for navigating the complexities of a real world marriage. She thought that as long as she puts on high heels and the lipstick, as long as she cooks the best meal, as long as she's always submissive and says, yes, sir, whatever you want, things will go fantastic. And if it's not fantastic, the listicle version of traditionalism would just say she should make more effort. It's really astonishing the level of mental gymnastics Lauren is able to do all by herself. Because again, usually it's pastors and people in your community who will gaslight you into thinking that the reason why your husband is such a horrible person is that, well, maybe you're just not doing your best. But she's able to gaslight herself into believing that if she prays by his side and really pushes herself to the maximum limits every day, he will change and he'll be a good, loving husband again. We see the dangers of actually believing the BS these coaches, influencers, podcasts, pick me's, religious leaders, aunties, elders, and other delusional people in our society push about how easy it is to make a marriage work. And by easy, I mean, well, all the husband has to do is go to work, and all the woman has to do is every single imaginable thing under the sun to keep a man that does not want to be kept, to make a man who does not want to be happy, happy, and to satisfy a man who simply cannot be satisfied. It was, she says, an embarrassing wake up call, finding herself consistently applying these rules and instructions that she found on Twitter. Jesus, not Twitter. Oh my god. And never getting the results she was supposed to get. Every single thing she was experiencing was the complete opposite of what she was told. When Lauren first announced her marriage, she says she'd been lauded by friends and fans. Then, when she announced the separation, she was inundated with messages lamenting how her life was ruined. Lauren says that some of the most miserable people she's met, in fact, absolutely the most miserable people she's met, have been stuck in this weird LARPy trad dynamic. The happiest people she knows, on the other hand, are just living in reality. I love that she said the happiest people are the people living in reality. I previously asked those of you who want to become traditional wives, you need to ask yourself, can you realistically carry the entire workload by yourself for 10 to 30 years? Come sickness, come depression, come chronic pain, come ups and downs, no matter what. You may have a child or children that has special needs. and still have to handle everything by yourself? Can you realistically do that as a trad wife? Can you do that with a partner that consistently hinders you? Again, I don't believe all traditional men are toxic. I believe every person can be toxic no matter what political affiliation or lifestyle they subscribe to. But like I said, based on what I have seen on the internet and in real life, when a man proudly tells you that they are a traditional man with traditional beliefs and values, run. Anyway, I will not tell you to like, subscribe, or comment. You will do that if you want to. But if the spirit moves you, or if my witchcraft just happens to work, I'm glad you stayed, and I hope to see you again.
My daughter, you have been married now for almost 2 years. And still, no children. You say you have to walk. You have to walk. See, a good wife would not let a small job take her away from the household. She would not. Sorry to interrupt, mommy. Well, the reason why we don't have kids yet is because we decided that it's best that we make enough money to properly take care of the kids. What are you trying to say? Is my son not making enough money for you to have had 2 children by now? Yes, of course. Of course, your son makes enough for the both of us and for me to have had children by now, mommy. But we thought that it's best that we have even more than enough money because my salary from my small job would be going towards a lot of the things concerning the baby and maybe even towards hiring a nanny. Nanny, hey, what do you need a nanny for? You cannot go to work, come back, cook, and clean this small house, look after your children and my son. What kind of woman are you? No, really. Are you okay? You're not even ashamed to say it with your mouth that you as a woman, you need a nanny. My son, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't believe that it is impossible for you to do that. If you really, really wanted to prove yourself as a good wife, and if your small job is interfering, then you should quit the job. So, my daughter, I did not know that you were such a failure of a wife, of a woman. The only reason why I let my husband, I mean my son, marry you is because I thought that you were going to make a good wife. Let me tell you a story about my life when I was a wife to Adam's father, my husband. He would shout at me, correct me with his hands, lock me outside of the house some days. Sometimes he would spend so much money on his girlfriends that I would have to go outside and start selling some small things just so I could provide for Adam here. Nowadays, some of these doctors and even some of my friends would tell me that my husband probably gave me a disease, which is why I could not give my wonderful husband more children after I had Adam here. And I will continue to say it's lies. It's lies because I know that the reason why I could not have more than one child is because God wanted me to have enough time to dedicate to my son and my late husband. Yes, that is what happened. Whether I was sick or even when I was pregnant with my beautiful son here, I would make sure that the house was spotless and that there was fresh food always available. And sometimes he wouldn't even come home at nights. Washing his work shirts to the point that my hands would have bruises and scars all over them. He was so kind that one day he even bought a freezer for me, but I rarely used it. Yes, because I did not want to become lazy, unlike you. Two freezers in one house. In the end, he left us. God took him from us at the young age of 78. That was how old he was when we put him in the ground just last year. He was so full of life. But let me tell you, as an elderly 48-year-old woman, I was so grateful to have had such a kind and loving husband. I was. So, my daughter, I have heard everything you have to say. I hope every wise word I have said today has put you on the right path. So, I bring the question to you. How are you going to change this situation for the better? I think that I should tell you sorry. Yes. You can apologize for being a lazy wife later. No. I was gonna say that I think I should tell you sorry for what you went through as a wife. Why? It was a good marriage. I was truly blessed to have such an amazing husband, like Adam's father. Okay. It was fine. For you. Um, but I don't think I know that this isn't the this isn't for me. Why are you going? Why are you going? Young girl, I'm talking to you. I'ma pray for you, okay? My husband, son. My son. Son. Are you seeing what is happening right now? Don't worry, mom. She'll be back. Don't worry.